Having worked on the commercial side of news, I know also you worked for Channel 4 for a while, but having worked on the commercial side of news and written news, did that give you any more sympathy for British news groups who maybe complain that the BBC is too big and invests too and has too much money to play around with in journalism?
Not really, not really. I mean, I honestly think that the point about the internet is there's a lot of stuff out there. And if you, rather than sort of trying to blame other people or sort of stop other people, or basically look to the government to help you out by stopping something else happening, you have to dig deep and find your own way. I mean, because all the American newspapers, the BBC exists in America, but it's nothing like as salient in America as this, or in Canada as it is in the UK. Newspapers have got all the same problems. There's absolutely no evidence to take the BBC out of the picture in the UK and suddenly advertising revives, or I mean, that actually more money comes in. There's some loose idea that maybe people there'd be more engagement, but actually the truth is it's the fundamental economics of advertising which is and competition from other people who are offering advertising like Google and Facebook, rather than the BBC as such. So honestly, no, I think it's a red herring. I mean, this is happening across the world. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Australia. It's happening across Europe. In Iceland a few years ago, the public broadcaster, all the commercial players ganged up on the. It's a thing, but I think it's displacement activity, to be honest. The people who are succeeding aren't doing that by badgering the government to try and shut down competitors or to shut down public service broadcasting. They're doing it by fixing their models.
Are you concerned about the future of the BBC at all?
I was concerned about it the day I joined it in 1979. It's always the BBC is always a worry. No, look, I'm a very big fan of Tim Davie. I think the BBC faces, as everyone in media does, some very big questions, quite apart from these economic questions we talked about. The business of, you're a classic brand, you've got classic delivery systems, in the case of the BBC, essentially, straightforward broadcast systems and digital broadcast systems, but still essentially linear systems. You now face head-to-head competition on new devices, particularly the smartphone, and head-to-head competition from streamers who've got completely different economics and, to state the obvious, very deep pockets. Realistically, in a fight with Netflix for the crown, Netflix is going to win. How do you engage younger audiences? How do you make sure you don't end up locked into older generations and, if you like, your more obvious near to hand audiences, which in the UK might be kind of more southern, more prosperous, more white audiences? How do you reach, and older audiences, and how do you reach out to other groups because if you can't demonstrate broadly universal appeal and value, you won't justify the license fee. And I think, although that was something we were wrestling with when I was running BBC Television, running the BBC, and by the way, BBC Three and BBC Four were part of, and iPlayer were all parts of the answer to that. And by the way, also big northern headquarters for the BBC. That problem's getting tougher, not easier. So one of the things Tim's got to figure out is how to go at that. And I think the return of BBC Three as a broadcast network is actually a very positive step. It's weird this, because you think, well, surely if you believe in the digital future, why do you need broadcast channels? Broadcast channels remain very good barkers and will for some more years for new content. And really from Gavin and Stacey onwards, BBC Three, and the point about BBC Three was I always saw it as a nursery for BBC One. And if you wanted to rejuvenate BBC One, it was going to be often with stuff that originated on the edges of BBC Three, which you could then, when it worked, move across to BBC One. If you haven't got a feeder channel where you can try really interesting new stuff and then move it across, it's hard to make sure that BBC One, the master channel, if you like, is getting the right kind of edgy new content, which is what you want if you don't want your I mean, the average age of BBC One audiences is now well into the 60s, the average age. And that drift is a dangerous one for the BBC.
Yeah. And what about the license fee? Is that do you think that can continue to work as a model?
Yes, I do. I think actually, I mean, you can argue the finer points. I mean, there's a household charge in Germany. There's other models, but the idea of, although there's been a free market counter argument against this since Alan Peacock in the 1980s, I think the idea, if you want a shared service where, in a sense, everyone pays, everyone's kind of worth the same to the broadcaster, and everyone gets real value, and we kind of come together to kind of share some moments with everyone else. If you want that, I think a license fee is a pretty good way of doing it. And although it's not quite the same as healthcare, the persistence of the NHS is quite interesting in the UK, I think, in the sense that actually, there, and this absolute, rather magnificent determination. It's kind of true everywhere, but particularly in the UK, about fairness and who's going to get the vaccines, and and we're all going to observe our COVID regulations, and that kind of sense of solidarity. I think the BBC is part of that. And I think actually the BBC during COVID really demonstrated again its value, I think. And I say it's largely from observation and because I've been told it, not because I've experienced it, because I don't tend to see the BBC services. I don't, I seldom listen to BBC local radio when I'm in America, basically.
Yeah.
I do listen to Radio 4, but not to local radio.